Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage, Jerry Harrison. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Chris France. Ladies and gentlemen, the incomparable Tina Wayne. Last but not least, give it up for David Byrne. Thank you, good night, thank you. That was indeed a religious experience. It's not hyperbole. Before I start, I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge, could the family of Jonathan Demme stand up, please, so we can. There's so many questions I personally want to ask, but also I want to acknowledge, first of all, let me just ask, what is it like to witness or experience this particular film in this context? Because I feel like we all have permission to just go home and lie and say we saw a Talking Heads concert.
Yeah!
Have you ever seen it in this sort of frantic frenzy?
Not like this. Before, in the aisles, you know, but not like this.
What happened? I don't know. By the way, sound person, could I get more monitors so I can hear what they're saying? Can you guys hear us clear?
Yeah!
I legit want to go back and remix Summer of Soul, because literally, that's what I was asking, like, wait, did you guys like remix this again? Because I don't remember it sounding this intense.
From scratch. I mean, there is, there are new speaker systems in theaters and in phones, both with IMAX and with Dolby Atmos. And we just you have to know where you're going to place everything. We were very fortunate that E.T. Thornburn, who actually did the album, on the re-release in 1999, and I got him going really early, going, E.T., we gotta find the tapes, and we recorded this on digital multitracks, which was sort of very innovative at the time. So we kept these ones, and they would be in sync, and then they would fall out of sync. It's like, oh, it's the one-on-one. But at the same time, he was getting the EQ and the compression and the placements together. And it still ended up being a rush. So it's like, but we started like 6 months early, and thank God we did. And I hats off to everybody, Mike Minkler, E.T. Thorngrid. And I oversaw it. I was proud to do it, and it was just a labor of love.
Okay, so what I'll do something different that normally doesn't happen. I'll do a question from me and then a question from the audience, so that way everyone's covered. I don't want you guys, I don't want to get cut off because I know we only have like 40 minutes or whatever. So someone said more volume, please, so sound person. I'll try to project as loud as I can. I know that most artists don't like looking in the rearview mirror and capturing moments, especially like when they're living in the present. So for you, could you just run us through what was the decision to make this film at that time in 1983? Like, as far as I knew, only, Scorsese's Last Waltz, or, I mean, even Give Me Shelter was a film that was, although it was classic for the wrong reasons. MTV was only 2 years old, you know what I mean? Like, so what was the decision to invest in your legacy?
Well, we were doing this tour all across America a couple of times, not just once, but a couple of times. We were hitting a lot of markets where we hadn't been before, and people were really digging it. The audience response was fantastic. And one day, Jonathan Demme came backstage and he said, "This looks like a movie. We should make a movie." And we said, "Yes, we should." We had seen a couple of his movies. I think David had seen more than a couple, but I knew Melvin and Howard and Caged Heat, and we thought,
I remember Casey.
and Jonathan's attitude and his whole demeanor was such that we thought, this is the guy. And as a matter of fact, nobody else wanted to do it or offered to. But we were happy, and Jonathan, he just did a fantastic job. He put together a wonderful team of people to work on it, and we had this fantastic band. So we paid for the movie. We said, we'll do it. Everybody was like, who's going to pay for it? We said, we'll pay for it. We did.
Yeah, but 83, like, you shot this in December of 83.
Yes.
You know, I guess it's general knowledge that you guys paid $1 million for it. I mean, the only thing I ever knew that was $1 million was like Michael Jackson's Thriller, which...
I think it was a little less than $1 million.
Sire wasn't behind this, like Seymour Stein?
I think Warner's was helping, yeah.
Warner's helped.
Okay, I was about to say.
But they actually, the idea of us doing another live album, because we had done the name of this band as Talking Heads 2 or 3 years earlier, there was not time for that. And we go, no, this is special, we have to capture it. But they finally came around.
So I hear that finding the original prints of the film was a mission.
Finding the right sound and the original prints. And some of it was stored at a warehouse in Kansas that MGM, that had nothing to do with it, had. Unfortunately, I have to credit James Mikowski. He was very meticulous and went all over, and he found the negative. And that's why you see this beautiful higher resolution scan that is, you now see things that you never saw before. And so just as you can hear more, you can see more.
Okay, so from the audience, Peter asks, is there a new stage technology available that you wish you had available when you were designing the show?
Probably not, because a lot of the stage techniques and things we used in this show were really old. a lamp. Handheld lights that the crew would hold up under us, and shadows, and we had fluorescent lights. I think that was Take Me to the River was fluorescent lights. All just regular stuff. Nothing super high tech. Slide projectors, things like that, but nothing that couldn't have been done, I don't know, 20 years before this. But that's kind of what we wanted. We wanted everything to look like, we're not trying to knock you out with the technology. You can see how it's done. Part of the show is, we're going to show you how it's done. And then you'll see what we can do with this.
So the temptation to, use lasers or explosives or... Look, I come from a P-Funk household where it's levitating spaceships and...
We couldn't compete with that.
It was also the time of fairy lights, when the lights that move. And I think that one of the reasons that the film has endured is because of what David said, much of it could have been done 20, maybe even 40 years earlier. So there's, maybe other than the clothes we're wearing, it's not dated in time so much, and so it has a kind of timeless quality.
Okay, so as a music head, it does, it absolutely has a timeless quality. Okay, so as a music head and a music nerd, I got to know. I have to know this. Okay, first of all, there's Edna Hall from the Ritchie family. I'm from Philadelphia, you know what I'm saying? Stephen Scales, who's even his bongo work on...
From Red Hook.
Yeah. But his conga drumming on Tom Tom Club is like such an iconic... On Genius of Love is so iconic. But even at that, the fact that Alex Weir from the Brothers Johnson, and for me, like Atomic Dog isn't even 9 months old, and you have Bernie Worrell and Lynn. How did you convince key members of funk institutions to join you guys? How?
We're such nerds. How?
What I can tell you is that we took a break between Fear of Music and Remain in Light, and I got to know this guy Busta Jones, and he introduced me to Delette McDonald, who was before Lynn and Edna, and he introduced me to Bernie. And David and I, we were offered these two big shows, one in Heat Wave in Toronto and one in Central Park, where we're going to get paid more. And we go, how are we going to play this music we've played in the studio? Because we've layered so many tracks. Oh, we're going to need another guitar player. We're going to need this, we're going to need that. We're going to need percussion, background singers. And I said, well, let me try this. And I went out in one afternoon, and I called Adrian Ballou at that time. I called Bernie, who said, talk to my wife Judy. And she allowed it to happen. Okay. And I said, really simple proposition. We're going to work for 2 weeks, 2 shows, rehearsals, and we can pay you this much, and then we're going to see what's going to happen. And so I came back to the studio and we were like, we have the best band in the world.
For those... Like, literally, for those of you that don't know, like, those weren't just regular side musicians. Like, literally, I'm watching, like, wow, like, this band on their own were a part of so many historic recordings. And Bernie Worrell on keyboards alone has revolutionized, like, the work of P-Funk, George Clinton, Jesus Christ. Okay, so Ted, this is another audience question. Ted wants to know, he says, I know other songs from the tour were cut from the final film. I did want to know, like, did anything make it to the final cut? Like, is there anything on the floor that we don't know? His question is though, but do you remember why Building a Fire was replaced with Found a Job?
I don't know, but I can guess. I think we wanted to make sure that that kind of slow build in the beginning, where one person comes out at a time, was going to be, was going to work smoothly. And I think, I'm going to guess that we decided, if we put this song here, we put this song here, and this person comes out here, we can have it go step by step by step.
Okay. I have to say that the three songs, Cities, Big Business, and E-Zimbra, are on the Blu-ray in high definition. And so you can see the entire show. There was a VHS cassette that came out that had the extra songs. So we felt we should definitely make that available.
Well, since you also shot 3 nights, how are the other cuts as well? Like, there's 2 other complete shows that we have not seen, correct?
Well, the edits are from every night.
Okay.
And we just chose what we thought was the best version for each song.
Okay, so this is, I'm gonna leave you out 1 second, Chris, and just talk to you 3 with the axes. Now, as a band leader who frowns when his guitar and his bass player start dancing, well, because they speed up. And just the meticulous level of precision you guys have when dancing while playing is unprecedented. So, and I really appreciate artists who do primitive movement more than just like choreographed, Charlie Atkins, Temptations level of dancing. I can appreciate Motown dancing. But for me, it's more spiritual when you're just in the moment and moving. So can you just describe just the zany level of, because it's so perfect looking that I'm like, this has to be choreographed. Can you just explain the method of your madness as far as your dance routines and playing at the same time?
I would, by this point in the band, I knew that there was going to be some movement. When the band started some years earlier, there was no movement. It was just stand still. Because we didn't want to just start moving like everybody else, so we decided, okay, then we're not going to move at all. So we figure out how to move in a way that belongs to us. And so I would put on recordings of the songs in my loft that I had at the time, and I had a video camera, and I would videotape myself just improvising these movements to the thing, and one after another, and then I'd press stop, and I'd go, let's come up with another one and do that. And eventually, I'd get the basis of things like that movement, that song makes me want to move like that. So that's what I'm going to start doing, and then see where that goes. Of course, once we started rehearsing, it even went further because it was much more exciting. I brought Lynn and Edna over to my place and said, okay, now let's all do it. Let's all start just improvising and see what happens. And I go, that's great, keep that. We're going to... So you can kind of, maybe it's not as fast as a choreographer would do, but you can kind of choreograph that way. And it's really organic, and it comes from whatever you feel at that moment, rather than somebody kind of putting it on top.
I think it's the best example of, dancing like no one's watching. And, no, for real. Like
Quest, when you ask about was there any technology that we would have liked to have had, I was thinking about in-ear monitors. And then I thought about David's moves in Once in a Lifetime, and I'm like, no, those in-ear monitors would have fallen right out of his head. So, the choreography evolved from the beginning of the tour to when we shot Stop Making Sense, but it was always good, but it just got better and better as the tour went on, and the women in the band, oh my God, they could dance.
Actually, okay, let me cheat and I'll do 2 audience questions, but kind of a follow-up. Was the set list the same every night, and was the concept of one by one building the show as a singular, as a duo, as a band, was that always the concept of that tour for that year, or was it specifically for this particular film project?
Yeah, that was the show that we were doing every single night. And David had an idea, and we thought, oh, this is really daunting because this is going to be really expensive to do. We're going to have to get a lot of big trucks and lighting and everything. But then we said, let's try it. And it worked. It was really good. And he created something that was like a narrative. Even though it's a false narrative, the band didn't start with David alone, but it worked. It was a story.
How did you manage to pull that off without feedback or any of those things? Because
We had to keep the monitors
We had
pretty
the
quiet.
audience. The audience was our feedback. How you guys reacted, that's what told us what we should do.
I meant microphone feedback. Just
We had the monitors were in the cabinets facing us.
Yeah, that
But
was
so
different.
therefore they were facing the microphones, so we could not have them very loud.
so you guys were going off of natural sound, you were going off
That's
natural
right.
amps, and
And amps that were built in, and then the monitors in the cabinets were for the singers.
risers.
In the risers that rolled out.
I couldn't turn up my bass past 2.5.
oh my
If I went to 3, Jerry would go crazy. This is how we worked, but we got used to it, and it saved our ears, and we still can hear.
Yeah, you wouldn't think it would work. Having the monitors behind you, you think, uh-oh, it's gonna just be
I'm really
squealing.
gobsmacked right now because my drum wedges have to be almost concert level, like loud that the audience hears. And to hear that you guys almost didn't have that, but the energy still.
It was loud on stage. I mean, but we somehow managed to make that work. And actually, one of the roadies, the one when David goes, "Stop making sense." His family had a farm, and he goes, my family is carpenters. Let me see if I can make these risers. So he built the risers up on his farm and brought them down. And we there were designs to get this one, because Bernie and I had a monitor in ours coming up, and then there was a monitor going forward as well. And it was all then like plugged in and wired as they rolled out.
Okay, so Marco wants to know what are some of the most valuable things you've learned from working with Brian Eno. He produced the 3 albums leading up to Stop Making Sense. Wait, what's the secret link? Did you catch that? Did you catch that?
He didn't produce Speaking in Tongues, which is what most of Stop Making Sense is.
You know,
I'm reading verbatim.
Well, going back like a record before the one that we were touring behind on this, so in Remain in Light, he encouraged us to go in with like some riffs, some little ideas, and says, but no written songs. Which on the record before that, Fear of Music, there was a couple of songs where we just had jams and like things, and I would write a melody and words on top of it, and it worked. So it was like, okay, next step, do a whole record where you're just doing that. It was really like, is this gonna work? Can we make real songs about this? Yes, you can. And you end up with not a lot of fancy chord changes.
That's right.
You get a good.
Remember what Woody Guthrie said, right? Chris?
Yeah, he said more than 2 chords is just showing off.
But what David refers to is the song Izumbra it was not going to be on Bureau Music because we hadn't written, there were no lyrics. And in fact, David and I flew back from Perth on a 30-hour flight because we were going next to Europe. And that's when Brian came up with the Hugo Ball poem. And I think we all went, this is so great, we got to do more of this. And that was sort of what led us into Remain in Light.
Tina, this is for you. Jonathan wants to know, how did your time at Rhode Island School of Design, together with Chris and David, influence the music you made?
Good question.
I thought of you when I asked.
How would it influence me? It was the chemistry that we had with each other. I think being from art school, it teaches you to really, as Chris would always say, dig deep within yourself and not be derivative, but know your history, which you know. And you know your history, and then you try to bring something original to it. And that's what art school did for us.
There were these little rules sometimes, like don't put anything unnecessary. If there's anything that you don't need, strip it out.
That's a Coco Chanel.
I didn't know that.
Okay, so I would like to know, for some of the shots of the film, were the 3 nights shot straight in a row, or did you guys were the particular nights that you shot, was it in the mind of, okay, we're shooting this movie, is the audience aware of this? Like, did you stop to give them time to change tape? Did you have to repeat a song or two, or was it just straight through, and if we didn't catch it, we'll get it the next night?
We had to have we had to have 2 tape machines going. When one stopped, the other one took over. So there'd be splicing. And at the same time, Gary Gitzman told us that we should do digital, which was kind of new at the time. And that was very helpful when Jerry and Eric Thorngren came to remixing and remastering for this version.
We also knew that in the process of making a film, there's a lot of copying of the audio. And so we didn't want it to degrade. One important thing is we didn't want to have too many seats taken out for cameras. So one night we had like a railroad track with a dolly at that side, one night coming down the middle, and one night coming down the right side, stage right. And the other thing is that we'd actually played 4 nights in a row. And the first night was sort of a warm-up. But there isn't a music story, is that the first night we had film, they all got so excited, everyone started at the same time, and they all ran out at the same time. So there was a hole, they go like, oh my God, we got a load. And then Jonah goes, I guess we got to overlap when people are starting.
But there were no breaks. Yeah, there was.
I think also what makes this film unique to me is that I don't truly get a sense that you guys are actually performing for an audience. There were a few times where I was like, wait a minute, are they just enclosed on a stage alone without seeing the audience? And of course, when Take Me to the River comes, then we get to see an angle of the audience. But I think what makes it unique, or made this more like a concert, was that you guys sort of omitted the fourth wall, if you will. So was that by design or on purpose? Because we rarely see like audience shots of reactions,
Yes.
Yes, that was intentional.
And we also intentionally didn't have interviews because we had seen a lot of rock movies, concert movies, where you see a shot of the band, you see a shot of the audience, and they cut some guy's fingers, and then they cut to an interview with one of the band members who's saying like, when I wrote this. So we just wanted to avoid that. And thank goodness we did.
Wait, so is this the first Soup to Nuts concert film without any commentary? Because yes, even in the song Remains the Same, and then the last waltz in Give Me Shelter, like there's dialogue, and so you guys, was it initially like, was there a conversation of, hey, let's make a documentary about the tour, or let's just do straight concert film?
And we just wanted to do the concert just as we were doing it. And Jonathan was just the perfect collaborator. He loved what we were doing and just found a way to enhance it, but not change it.
Peter wants to know, and this is for Chris, could you help settle something? Who got a match at the beginning of Burning Down the House?
That was me. Thank you.
Okay, well, actually, this is a good segue. Speaking of you, and I don't know if I'll ever get this opportunity again in this sort of format to ask you. As a person who's seen many a concert, especially when the designated lead singer takes the break, and oftentimes, like I saw the Stones last week, and still, after all these years, like Keith does that one, like Mick will give Keith this one song or something. I don't think it did happy this time. But to me, I was like, wow, like how incredible is it that like this is like one of the first times in which the break song, the bathroom break song, the popcorn break, let me go on artists, like the side project song, that the Tom Tom Club, which is even more iconic, like the Tom Tom Club is the side dish. But this is what I always wanted to know, having grown up with Genius of Love. Just the lyrical structure, like what was with the non sequitur yelling of Hamilton Bohannon's name or James Brown's name, or I assume. This song came out when I was 8 years old, and I think like my older cousin, because I would sing like, what you gonna do when you get out of jail? And someone explained to me like, those are prostitutes singing. What are prostitutes? So what I want to know was, what was y'all smoking when y'all wrote that song?
Well, we came up with that in Bahamas, and there was no weed down there.
Y'all did it at Compass Point?
Yeah.
Y'all recorded at Compass Point?
Compass Point.
Yes. So is Sly and Robbie involved at all, or?
They were in Studio A doing Grace Jones.
What? I'm sorry.
While we were in Studio B. And so Sly and Robbie did come and do the hand claps with us, which was great. And remember, you guys used the hand claps with us when we did Jimmy Fallon?
Yes.
But no, I mean, Tom Tom Club was a side project, and we never wanted to compete with our original band. And we loved our Talking Heads, and so it was going to be our little dance project on the side. But look, what you're going to do when you get out of jail, you know what that means. That's playing the dozens. That's something that came from the street.
I never knew that.
And we could go on the subway, and we would see Roxanne Shante, and she was like this little beautiful little child, and she had her little posse, and we would say, oh my God, that's Roxanne Shante, and we would say, yeah, we're right there with you, baby, and we just felt like this is part of us. This is a love song. This is sweet soul music, and we loved Hamilton Bohannon. We loved James Brown. We loved all of these people, and it was a love song to each other too. We're about to be married. Well, we've been together for over 50 years. Wow. And we're about to celebrate celebrate 47 years of marriage. And that includes David and Jerry, because they were there when we got married. We were kind of a married band. So Tom Tom Club was really a side thing, and we would do that song. It wasn't supposed to be in the film, but we did it so David could change it to the big suit.
Wait, guys, forgive me for nerding out, but I'm still trying to process the fact that you recorded that at Compass Point, and the fact that the same hand claps that made the nightclubbing record for Grace Jones are the same hand claps that made Genius of Love. This is crazy.
Yeah.
I have to say, when we were doing Remain in Light, AC/DC was doing Back on the Black in the next door. And we recorded all of the basic tracks to Remain in Light, and I think they did one guitar solo and one vocal. Mark Lang was a very particular producer.
Oh yeah, I know his reputation.
They could only do one line every hour because it took so much to sing those lines.
You're getting compression headaches. You see them outside like, I don't get it on stage, but it's like, oh.
That's amazing.
That's wow. That's amazing. I'm sorry. I'm still.
Well, hey, if you want to go really into details,
yes, please.
Think about Whitney Houston. You know, 52 reels of 24-track tapes to do one song. They would splice vowels.
Yep.
It was cut and paste. They'd have 2 reels going all the time. That was the technology back then. Now you don't have that.
Yeah, you record everything on your phone. Okay, another from the audience. Ellen wants to know, this is for Tina. What music were your parents listening to, if any, when you were young? Did any of it impact your musical taste or style?
Well, everything from Robert Johnson and all of the congressional library, of Leadbelly and Woody Guthrie, and also Caribbean music, Harry Belafonte, and my mother was French, so we had all of that. We had Edith Piaf, so I was listening to all the Yay girls. That's how the Yayes came into Psycho Killer, because David came over to our studio one day, back in the day, and said, hey, what would you do, if you were, to sing, write some lines in French, because I've got this idea for a song, based on an Alice Cooper concept. Do you remember that, David?
Wait a minute, you can't, you gotta open the door now, like.
This is Psycho Killer.
Yes, I know.
And so David said, well, what would you say? And I said, well, think of the Yay girls. So, yeah. And it went from there. And then, of course, he brings in, great stuff, from great stuff from back in the day, Fa Fa Fa, the Fa Fa song. And we just mixed it all up because we were lovers of American radio, and we were lovers of the great heritage, the beautiful heritage that is from bluegrass to blues to jazz to, it was all the same to us. It was all American music, and it was from here. It didn't originate somewhere else. It came from here. And we're so proud of that.
So another type of choreography I want to discuss is the staging and the lighting, especially when you guys do Swamp. What else? I wrote these down. What a day that was, and also This Must Be the Place. Just in terms of the lighting and your particular performance, like. Were you guys running this in sound check, or was there any prepping rehearsal for those particular songs?
David mapped it out ahead of time.
Yeah, it was once I thought of the different ways we could light the show, and I had this idea in my head, like, let's use no colored lights, like colored gels and things like that that you would normally see in a rock concert. Let's use all just essentially natural light, but that meant fluorescent lights, xenon lights, tungsten lights, etc., each of which has its own specific quality. We think of them as being just regular white lights like lamps, but they all have a specific look, and then I realized, oh, and we can put them on the ground and point them up. Somebody can hold one and move it around. So we'd be like, oh, let's do this on that song, this on that song, this on the other song, and let's see how that goes. I think one of the hardest parts was working with our crew, who were great, but a crew in a music show, they're used to not being on stage. If they have to come on stage, it's because something went wrong. And then they're supposed to like run on stage, fix it as fast as they can, and get the hell out. In this case, it's like, no. You're supposed to be on stage. You're gonna do something with purpose and intention. You're gonna move this thing. You're gonna hold this lamp. You're gonna do that. You're supposed to be there. That was a whole kind of learning curve.
By the way, I'm pretty sure the projectionist who projected the slides onto the screens for that whole tour, John Chimbles, he's here tonight. You here now?
Okay, John is going to take over now.
I guess, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask about your clothing. First of all, whose idea was it for the particular look that you guys rocked for that particular tour? And why did you rebel?
That's funny.
Was it for enjoyment, comfort, or?
People ask me that question, and I have no idea. It wasn't an act of rebellion. Tina remembers that I sent my the clothes I should have worn out to the laundry, and they didn't get back in time. Oh. And then the film people said for continuity, I had to keep wearing that shirt.
So, you couldn't just change, or well, haven't been on many a video or television set, but I don't think people really care about continuity, but,
Well, they do in the movies, they really do.
So once you wore that blue shirt, you had to rock it the entire time.
Yes, but David's idea was that everybody should have very muted tones on stage.
They should be neutral. Everyone should be neutral. Nobody wear black. Nobody wear white. And then David came out in the biggest white suit ever.
Talk about it. Okay, I know you're tired of answering the question about the suit, so what was the decision first of all, who designed it? Did you design it, or?
I did a drawing, but then I went to a woman from a small kind of boutique that Jerry introduced me to.
Her name is Gail Blacker.
I had a drawing. It was basically a rectangle, two little feet sticking out the bottom, a little round head on the top. I said, I'm serious. This is what I wanted to look like. Of course, a simple drawing, but to make that happen, there was a lot of experimentation in figuring out how to do it.
How long did it take to design, and can I assume that there were like a regular pair of pants inside there that was connected to a bigger outfit, or?
There was kind of these padding things on mesh padding on my hips, So I was wearing like a girdle with this padding, and then the jacket itself had big, obviously big shoulders. It was the 80s.
It was also two-dimensional, sort of.
It's very much like
It's just,
Marie
it's just
Antoinette.
mine.
How easy was it, or how hard was it to move and maneuver?
Really easy move in, and because the pants were not actually on my waist, they were belted around this kind of girdle thing. There was lots of air.
Have they ever
Good for a
fallen?
Scotsman.
Have they ever fallen down?
Right?
Have they ever fallen down? Or
No, never had an accident.
how many versions of the suit were made for you?
There were two versions, and then in the film, the mistakes were the same one twice for continuity.
And where are they right now?
I would like to say that one went on tour, but no, it's in my office in a very large box.
Both of them? Both suits?
And I think just the one from the film.
Okay. Because I want to buy it off you.
We'll talk.
Douglas would like to ask, during the 1983 Speaking of Tongues tour, the same pre-show music was played each night. I remember it was by the film composer Michael Nyman, but I can't for the life of me remember which record song it was. Do you remember it, and why did you choose it?
I remember that one was called M-Work. That was the name of it. It was like one piece of music that took up the whole side of one record. And
We played a lot of craft work too before the show. You really can't go wrong with craft work.
Oh, I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. Okay, so for the band, Doug wants to know, is it true that the kid with the unicorn at the end of the film is Alex Weir's kid? And do you know where they are now?
Sean, he lives in LA. And, yes, he's absolutely adorable.
Well, you know, guys, to watch the audience watch this, and I've seen this film, you know, like way in the 20s now, you know, and I have to say that every time I see it, I learn something from it, and you guys are to be commended, and we want to thank you for giving us the honor of celebrating with you this monumental moment, this 40th anniversary, and man, great job, thank you.
thank you.